Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 166. Well, we're just a week away, so I want to wish every one of you the merriest of Christmas and happy holidays for this beautiful, grand season. So thank you for taking time from your busy schedule, from all your parties, and of course, most importantly, enjoying your family to come by and say hello and listen to me for a little bit. Also want to thank my really good dear friends there at Bedford Camera. It's bedfords.com for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. You know, it's you're down to the last minute, right? When it comes to those last minute ideas. But Bedford's has got a ton. Not only that, they've got the shipping to get it to you. So check them out. And as you check out, make sure in that discount box, you put in the special code MOOSE, MOOSE, for that special 5% off. Then you get the free shipping. And of course, in certain states, you have no sales tax. So it's bedfords.com for all your last minute Christmas shopping and all the rest of the 51 weeks of the year. Hey, let's get right to it. 'Tis the season. Well, I was having dinner with some dear friends, and I said, hey, got an idea for a podcast topic? So this really came from them. And it's really kind of heartfelt, and I thought it was really kind of a great idea. And it really comes down to the heart of what photography is all about. Memories, recording memories. But rather than what we normally would talk about in most of the podcast, this one is kind of like about not being a photographer. So what am I talking about here? Well, hey, we're coming up on those special holidays, right? Christmas, New Year's, and that normally means the gathering of families. Now, quite often, you know, you've got that, people talk about like at Thanksgiving, they've got that one uncle, you know, or at Christmas, that one grandma. But you know, when we're not around, I bet, you know, they talk about is that one photographer, the one that's always like, okay, everybody, let's get together. Okay, everybody, smile. And they sit there and they mess with the flash and do all that stuff. I mean, I can speak firsthand. I drove my family nuts with this whole thing, you know, setting up the tripod, setting up lights, getting the remote trigger, and of course, trying to make it perfect. As if, right, this is the time for perfection. It's really not. It's the time to actually perhaps get in front of the camera more than being behind the camera. At the same time, you kind of need to think about the process of, you know, the memories you are collecting and realizing that some of these memories, on the kind of a sadder note, could be the last you gather of some of your most important family members. So rather than becoming a photo geek for Christmas, how about being a memory snob and going after every single memory you can go after? How do you do that? Well, first, keep it simple, stupid, okay? In other words, perhaps not have lights and umbrellas in every corner of the house. You know, perhaps not having no flash in the hot shoe. What if you were to go flashless? Radical idea. How could you do that? Well, I'm telling you now because you want to think about this and do some practicing and testing prior to the event. Christmas morning or Christmas night or Christmas or New Year's Eve, what happens to do it, and you're having your big gathering, this is what you're going to practice for. Now, you're going to need a willing participant, okay? The spouse, family member, something, okay? And what you want to do is you want to light that space with the normal lights you're going to use, and then take pictures around those lights and those events and see how they look on the people you want to photograph. Now, you might have to go into Adobe Camera Raw and open some shadows up. You might have to sit there and work on your white balance because you might have some LED, you might have some lights on the Christmas tree, you might have tungsten, you might have to deal with those mixed light sources. You might have to sit there and kind of manipulate the situation. So, what do I mean by that? Let's talk about lighting. So, you might have some table lamps. You might need to take a shade off one lamp. You might need to tilt a shade on another lamp. You might need to take the track lighting and turn it a little bit this way, a little bit that way, so they do more illuminating of the memories you want to record, the people, then perhaps light a particular location or bookshelf or momentum. I mean, we're talking about for a short period of time, right? It's a momentary thing. And to figure that out, you need to have somebody to help you, a model, okay? And then sit there and finish those photographs. And more importantly, once you've done all this, take notes, save those pictures, and then look at them the day before the actual event. Okay. So what do you want to do? You want to sit there and have the photography part as simple as can be. So you're doing what? You're enjoying the memories, the moment, the family, rather than being a photographic geek. Okay. So there's the first thing. Let's talk about the lighting. Now, what about focus? Well, here's a really good point my friends brought up that I think a lot of photographers forget to do. And that is be in the photograph yourself. Now, if you are going to be in the photograph, what has to happen? You have to hand the camera off. So another reason why to make everything as simple as possible, from exposure and lighting to focusing. So what's the best focusing mode if you're going to be in the picture? Personally, I'm going to put it in auto area AF, and then I'm going to shut the aperture down to f8. Which means you have to probably raise the ISO to have a shutter speed of at least 125 or higher. So the person is going to take the picture, who more likely is not a photographic geek like yourself, can take your beautiful camera and kind of act like it's a point and shoot. Okay. So why is that important? As a person who has lost his parents, that's the way life is, and my wife, some of the most cherished photographs we have are from this time of year taken with our parents, and perhaps also our kids, our parents' grandchildren, their photograph being taken with their grandparents. Okay, that family, and there's probably nothing worse than having all the family in the photograph except for you, because you are part of the family. You're a big part of it. And sometimes photography can get in the way of that very important memory. So set up the settings and the lighting exposure, do all the testing, so you can jump in the picture giving someone else the camera. Now, what if there is nobody else? Maybe it's the time to get yourself a platypod or a small tabletop tripod, something very simple, not big, nothing that's going to get in the way, nothing that Rover can knock over, something very simple that you can set up. And what do you want to do? You want to sit there and test where you're going to set this up prior to the actual shooting. Now, let's say we're going to sit there and include the Christmas tree or the Hanukkah candle in this process, okay? If that's the case in either one, realize that those are very bright light sources, brighter than probably most of the lights in your room. You need to figure out how you want to deal with that. There's a couple of ways. One, okay, the most obvious, is to simply move it further away from you and your family members you're going to have photograph, and then put it in a spot where from distance we can maybe make it less bright. Perhaps put it in a way that it is in another section, it's just as bright. Think about that light range. Add that in there. And why would you want to include things like that? And it could be something subtle. It could be Christmas ornaments, it could be a stocking spot. So many different ways of saying what time of year it is. But why would you want to do that? Well, that's a big part of that memory, right? And as you do all this, here's the thing that's most important about this process that I've talked about many times here on the podcast and on the website. You have kind of two sets of memories, those that are going to go in the refrigerator and those that are going to be shared. And the ones we're talking about right now are really kind of, as far as I'm concerned, not the ones to be shared. These are the more or less the private one, the family one. So when it comes to storytelling, you want to make sure that you have some fun in this process. So when everybody looks at that photograph, they see the photograph and they remember the fun that happened in that process. Now, you know yourself and your family well enough to know what you should probably include to make it fun. What are some examples? Well, the first and probably the scene stealer of all time is to include the pet, right? I mean, everybody knows the pet, but pets do always something hilarious, especially when you're trying to get them to do something when you're taking a picture, right? I mean, that's when they really tend to sit there and show their personality and character. So bring the cat into the photograph. What if you've got somebody who has no clue how to wrap a present? Maybe that disastrous wrap job could be part of, okay, the story. What if you have a special event coming up? Be it, it's a birthday during the holiday, a wedding, or anniversary, a baby being born. Could that be included as well? So you not only talk about the particular time of year, but exactly what year it was without putting in the corner, 2019. Because everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's the year that, so-and-so got married or so-and-so had their 50th birthday. You can include these into that moment. And what do you got? You've got a story, you got a place, you got a time, you're having fun. But you want to make sure you include yourself in it. So you might need to have some sort of remote. Now, one thing I would recommend, since you're still a photo geek, right? I mean, we can't ignore that part of our DNA. What I would do and what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to use the Z6 and then I'm going to use the SnapBridge app on my phone. Why am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to try to make it fun in that I'm going to have the SnapBridge operational and I'm going to have everybody can see on the phone what they look like. And so we can look at the phone, we can look at the camera, we can take pictures and be goofy. And when people see themselves like in a mirror, which is what, kind of do with SnapBridge on the iPhone, more fun happens. And the more fun you have, and of course, you know that in this process, there's going to be a disaster of some sort, right? And that's the moment you want to take the picture because that's the inside story. Everybody's going to remember every time they look at that photograph. And include this, all the time. You got that big table and you've got everybody sitting there around the table. What happens if you put your camera in the middle of the table on one of those, lazy Susans, and you sit there and you just spin it and take pictures, right? I mean, just you think of the fun you can have with that remote camera. And in that process, since it's remote, you're not geeking out as a photographer. You're going to be included. So is the family. And more than likely in the process, at least if I was doing it, while I'm spinning the camera, I'm going to knock over a glass of water. I'm going to sit there and spill, the cranberry sauce. Some disaster is going to be included because I can't walk and chew gum. All of that after the fact, of course, it'll be hilarious. At the time it happens, yeah, I'll probably get in trouble. But afterwards, okay, that's the memory that everybody's going to remember from that Christmas. That's what this is really about. All the memories, all the people who are there, all the love that's going on, all the laughter. That's what this is all about. This is not the time to worry about highlights and shadows or catch lights. And gosh, whatever you do, just because it's not tack sharp, don't delete it. Okay? It's a Christmas memory. All is forgiven this time of year when it comes to all those photo geeky things we worry about. And then once you do this, make sure that you share those photographs with all the family members, even those who might not be present, so they can sit there and revel in all the fun for the other 364 days of the year. So it 'tis the season to be merry. Take photographs. Be with your loved ones. Have the merriest of times. So remember to do that. And remember to make every click your story.